haven't. So I want people to be aware that this is a live council meeting. It is being recorded. Your personal information, including your image, maybe not your image, but your voice, name, opinions, any other personal information disclosed by you during the meeting is collected by the City of Roslyn under the Freedom of Information and Protection of Privacy Act for the purpose of your participation in the public input. So if you have any question about collection of your personal information, contact dco@roslyn.ca. That's our Deputy Corporate Officer. If you do not wish your personal information to be collected, please do not join the live council meeting. So, and in order to run public input smoothly, if you wish to comment, please do the raise your hand button. I see we have one guest and one member of the media, so that should be easy. And I'll call on people, by name. But we're going to start with our public hearing first, and this is the public hearing for the zoning amendment bylaw number 2745. This concerns 1715 3rd Avenue to rezone the property from residential infill R1 to residential infill guest suite. And this is just to allow them to do a short-term rental. So if there's anyone who wishes to speak to this, you can raise your hand and I'll call on you. And if not, this will be the shortest public hearing ever, because I think we can adjourn the public hearing. Okay. I am now going to call the regular meeting. I'm not going to read the statement again because nobody new has joined us. But the first up is public input. So this is a time you've got 2 minutes to speak to us about anything you wish if you raise your little blue hand there. And you can talk to us about anything that's on the agenda or whatever's on your mind. And I think maybe Tara wanted to say something. Okay, there we go.
Oh, hi, this is Tara Gill. I know some of you there. I'm one of the physicians from the Kootenay Boundary Regional Hospital, and I work at Emerge. And I just wanted to come on the line to say that I support Dirk's motion of supporting Bonnie Henry and her message about non-essential travel. In terms of not leaving your region, not traveling for things such as vacations. I like her message about with the ski hills, and she gives a very good example of using your local ski hills. So I just say, as a physician of the community, I support Dirk's motion.
Okay, thank you, Tara. That's great. Good to hear from you. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's anybody else there for public input. So I'll continue on adoption of the agenda. Can I have a mover for the regular meeting be adopted? Okay, Terry says yes. Andy says is the seconder. All in favor of the agenda? Okay, perfect. Thank you. And then we don't have any petitions or delegations, but we do have some minutes to adopt, and that is the regular meeting on the 4th. And do I have a mover that we should adopt these? Chris and Janice, and any comments? All in favor? Good. Okay, we don't have any referrals from prior meetings either. So we're moving right into policies and bylaws. So we had our public hearing on this particular zoning amendment for 3rd Avenue. We are now at the stage of 3rd reading and adoption. So do I have a mover for 3rd reading? Okay, Dirk and Chris, move that. And any comments? All in favor? Okay. All right, let's do it again. Let's do for adoption. Who wants to adopt? Janice and Andy? All in favor? Okay. Okay, now we've got some policy reviews here. The first one up is Employee Service and Innovation Award. And the recommendation is that we approve this as presented. Do I have a mover? Chris and Andy, any comments? Chris, you're first, then Andy, nothing? Dirk has a comment. Okay, Dirk.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't really like this. It sounds by the emails that it's not very well utilized anyways. I have a feeling that somebody working for the city should be driven to make these improvements, not needing a cash incentive to do so. if people aren't driven to make this kind of improvement, I don't think they should work at the city. So I don't like this policy.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, the comment I have is I actually like it. I don't see it as a motivation to incent someone to do it. I see it as a thank you for creativity. I'd actually like to see some handed out. I was hoping maybe during COVID times there might have been, something that came out with people doing things for the city, because we had such a challenging year that would be worthy of giving somebody an award. And if that comes forward, staff will bring it to us. Okay, anything else about this? We're going to call, Chris?
Sorry, when was the last time it was handed out?
Oh, I don't know. Staff has, I think it was handed out at one point a few years ago. Staff, is there anybody on staff that can answer that?
No, I think that probably I'd say before I started here, so I'd say between like 6 to 8 years, I think maybe Wayne, got it for something he was doing in regards to equipment manufacturing upgrade that he did for some reason. But
Yeah,
I can't remember. Darren, I think we talked about it last year at this time, but I don't remember the particulars of it.
Yeah, I think Stacy has a comment on it. Stacy, do you remember the particulars?
Yes, he developed something for the snowplow that made it easier for it to lift up and down or something like that. I don't know the details, but yes, it was for Wayne. And
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
something for the snowplow. And that's like, since I've been here, that's the only thing that I know that's been awarded.
Yeah. So,
It would be cool to try to promote it more.
Yeah, I think we
How
all
do you do that?
related things all the time, but anyway.
yeah. But it's nice to recognize someone's creativity and somebody's contribution to the bottom line in that case. Janice, did you have a comment?
Well, I was just going to say, I think that staff does a great job of, making sure that they do things in a really, cost sensitive and responsible way all the time anyway. So this is really in place for really, like Wayne, an outstanding innovation that, wouldn't necessarily come off the shelf from somewhere.
Yeah, I think that. Okay, I'm going to call the question if there's no further comments. All in favor? Okay. All right, next up is our policy review for our short-term rental accommodation. And the recommendation is that we approve it as amended, which was to line it up with our business bylaw that we had before. So I have a mover, Janice and Dirk. Janice, comments?
Yeah, I was just going to say that we're amending the policy to get the $400 deposit out. But I think that the bylaw needs another looking at, but that would be a separate discussion.
Okay, well, this would be a time if you want to do something separate. If it's something small, we can do it tonight. If it's a bigger discussion, we'd probably want a motion to bring this back for the further discussion. I'm going to call on staff and then Stu. Staff?
Yeah, so the short-term rental accommodation in the zoning, we've already had that discussion where council wants to make the changes to that. We just did take away the deposits that we have, but we are obviously looking to, as part of a previous council resolution, talk to stakeholders to review our business license bylaw, with this being a particular item to it. So that is already in our plan for the year, and we don't need probably another motion to do that since we already have one.
Okay, that's great. Stuart?
Yeah, I don't like this policy at all. I've got lots of problems with it and lots of ideas, but my thought was that it came out of a process. There was a committee, there was a better level of investigation of the issue. So if we're going to redo it, I think I don't want to just come up with my brainstorming ideas. I'd like to think that it's a pretty significant issue, and at some point actually a full review might be appropriate. And then perhaps my thought was after the OCP, where we actually have the values of the community better defined, and then we can have a look at this and say, look, is this actually compatible with those values? I don't think it is, but seeing we're in the process of going through that re-examination, maybe when that's done, that's when we get in there and have another good look at it.
Yeah, I think that's great. I think staff understands that we're in that process. So that's probably when it'll come back. So that's great. Okay, so I'm going to call the question as it stands right now. And this, we understand this is interim. We have some other things coming up on this in this year, and we'll get into it in a more fulsome way later. Okay, all in favor? And no one opposed. Okay. Okay, so now we've got Roslyn Recreation Instruction Payment Policy that we approve it as amended, and it was small changes to that, modernizing it a bit. A mover for that, Chris, and a seconder is Terry. Okay, Chris, do you have any comments?
No comment.
Okay, Terry, anything?
Nope,
Nope.
seems straightforward, thanks.
Okay, anybody else? Going to call the question, all in favor? Okay, recreation bursary allocation, then this gets a little more generous, and the recommendation is that we approve it as amended. Do I have a mover? Janice? Stu? Janice, any comments?
Yeah, I think it's an appropriate amendment for the bursary, and the uptake hasn't been really strong, even though it's been a COVID year this year. Of course, we haven't had as many programs available as we normally would, but you know, it's the rec department's doing a great job of maintaining the bursary, and we can support up to 25 people with what we have right now without any future fundraising. And I think that you know, the cost to participate have gone up, so the adjustment in the amount awarded each year is appropriate.
Okay, Stuart?
Yeah, I got nothing to add.
Okay, Dirk?
I just wanted to, is it worth loosening the purse strings somewhat? I mean, if it's not really being utilized, the bar to access it is pretty high. Maybe worth.
Christy, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, we
Well-
actually adjusted that to have it line up with market basket measure so that we're in line with the other communities in the region, because we're also have a side initiative going for a regional all access card. So the first step for that regional all access card is to standardize the level of means assessment with the other communities.
Okay,
Will that change the number of people able to access it?
That's what we're at right now. We've adjusted ours last year to be market basket measure, which is that assessment level that changes. The province and the feds reassess it every year according to community size. So we wouldn't want to change away from that without it jeopardizing our chance of being part of that regional all access card.
that's good. Any other comments there? No, call the question, all in favor? Okay, good. Okay, now we have our COVID-19 Resilience Infrastructure Stream Grant, the Green Link Trail. And the recommendation is that we approve this grant program and that we allocate $10,000 from our Climate Reserve Fund, even though it's not necessary, but it certainly makes our application stronger. Do I have a mover? Andy and Terry. Okay, any comments? No?
Only that it's great. I mean, great to see that this project's moving forward, and let's hope that the funding comes through. Yeah, first
Yep.
phase, and I realize it's only just down to the golf course entrance at this point. But I think you know, get it started, and I think other partners will be on play, and once we get it started, hopefully there'll be funding coming down the stream that'll allow us to continue it.
Yeah, that's great. Terry, any comments?
Just anecdotally, as well as through surveys, trails are the best, you know, some of the best bang for our buck that we can get, it appears. So I'm all for it.
Yeah, great. Okay, any
The other thing I wanted to mention was that Beaver Valley is very interested in coming in from their end.
Good.
So that would be quite a link.
Yeah, well, that's the original idea, right? Was to go the
Mhm.
whole way. So, Chris,
What's the timeline on completion?
It has
Well-
to be done before the end of this year.
End of this year?
it had to be started by September and finished by December, I think, wasn't it, Stacy?
Yeah.
Thinking there. Stacy, did you have another comment?
Yeah, just to Andy's comment that Beaver Valley is interested, so is Fruitvale, so is somewhat the City of Trail and RDKB as well. So yeah, there's meetings on board to discuss continuing that trail all the way through. So
Be awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, call the question. All in favor? Okay. Okay, now we've got our Roslyn Senior Housing Society extending their loan. The staff recommendation is that we approve postponing the demand of the loan for $270,000 for 60 days until February 1st. So this is to accommodate BC Housing's review. Do I have a mover? Okay, Dirk moves. Janice seconds. Dirk, you have any comments?
Nope.
Okay, Janice?
Yeah, I would be happy to give them the 60-day extension for CMHC on the same terms that they're currently having.
I think that's an excellent idea. I'd like to ask staff about that a little further. Well, is there any barrier to us doing that?
Sorry, you cut out there, Councillor Nightingale. Can you repeat what you said?
Sure, I said that I would like to, I'd like to give them the extension under the same terms that they currently have. So in other words, including interest.
So we would vote down this motion, which doesn't talk about interest, and we would have a new motion giving them the extension, but continuing the interest that they've been paying us for this period of time since they agreed to pay interest.
Well, it's my understanding then that you're creating another agreement, which makes that, okay, so then it's your loan isn't in a demand position anymore. There's no reason for BC Housing to take it over because, you know, you've taken away that demand essentially. So that's why I recommended not doing that.
Yeah, I'm still, I mean, I understand we want BC Housing to take it on for sure. I just am still confused about why they can't continue to pay interest until they do it. I'm not sure I understand the thing about.
Well, it's an agreement. Then you would be creating a new agreement.
A new agreement.
It isn't due.
But it's only an agreement that goes until February 1st. So BC Housing would still need to come in and help them at that point, right? Stuart.
Yeah, I don't understand the details, but I'm happy to go with Elma's recommendation.
Yeah, that's the motion on the table. Just, you know. Andy. You're muted.
What at the end of the 60 days, what happens if things go sideways for them?
BC Housing said that they can get it done within 30 days. The only reason I said 60 days was in case of unforeseen circumstances. We still don't know. We have to wait for them to do their due diligence and seeing if they can take it on. They were optimistic, what with interest rates being so low, that would work in the Senior Housing Society's favor. So we can just wait and see, right? That's why I was feeling that give it some time, and if it does get rejected, then we can deal with those issues later.
Right. If it gets rejected, they owe us the money. I mean, that's the deal is they owe us the money, right? They have to figure out some way to live up to their obligations.
Yeah, I would just cross that bridge when we get to it.
We don't get to it. Let's hope we don't get to it.
No,
okay.
Exactly.
So I'm going to call the question on the staff recommendation. Okay, all in favor? Okay, all right. Yeah. I mean, there's just such a history there of being taken advantage of, the city being taken advantage. So that's what bothers me about that one. Okay, so invoices paid for municipal services. We need a motion that we approve the check register report for December. Have a mover? Okay, Terry moves and a seconder. Janice seconds. Any comments or questions? Anybody have anything else they want to have any information on?
Nope.
No? Okay, all in favor? Okay. Okay, we are moving right along to city reports and council information. So all of these reports are here for information. We don't need any motions on them. So if you want to comment on anything, when I read the name of the report, just put your little hand up real quick if you have a comment you want to make on it, and we'll talk about it. So building permit report. Okay, building permit inspection type by type report. Step code energy rebates. Love to see those. Dirk.
Just for Stacy, is this a couple times now that someone's attempted step 4, and is it just, what's the barrier? Like, why are they having trouble hitting that.
Mostly if they don't do their air tightness test, they don't pass that mostly. Sometimes it's a combination of the mechanics they use and the air tightness test. But there are, like I said, there are a couple that have reached step code 4. There's just still awaiting finalization of either their occupancy or they need the energy label, which takes some time, as I'm aware, as I understand. So yeah, mostly it's a combination of different factors.
Okay.
Stacy, is that the same one that was on there before?
Yeah.
It's Unity, right? Yeah.
Okay. Okay, anybody have any comments on the communication statistics for 2020? Always good to see how customer service responsive we are with all of the stuff coming in. Anybody got any comments there? No.
A lot of emails.
It's a lot of emails, right? Bylaw enforcement. Okay.
Yeah, I've got a just a question, and I'm trying to bring myself up to speed on this piece here. But is this? I know it shows. No, it doesn't show comparative values for last year. But I guess when I first looked at this, I was surprised at how many sort of at the activity level, and I was just hoping for a comment. Is this normal? Is this low? Where are we at with this?
Yeah, it's about normal and always pathetic.
It's hard to say. This year is sort of an anomaly year since we didn't have a bylaw officer for a couple months. So he's just getting back to the swing of it. I would say it's probably fairly comparable to last year.
Yeah. That's one of the things we are looking to, revisit our bylaw enforcement is to try and get more time for a bylaw officer to actually do the job. It's just been part-time, and then through COVID, it's been no time. So.
And again, apologies, but how many hours a week does this represent, or is there a monthly hour?
He works just under 40 hours, between 38 and 42 hours a month.
Okay, thanks, Stacy.
Okay, any comments on the Public Works report? Okay, and how about water production report? And, Andy?
I just wanted to mention, I noted that it was down for 2020. So it was interesting to see that demand is waning, even though we think we have more, well, we do have more users.
Well, we do, but we probably had a lot of people who couldn't come this year. In some of the summer people couldn't come.
Sure. I'm also thinking that we're getting a handle on the leaks.
Yeah, I hope so.
Mm-hmm.
Is there a staff comment in there? And then I'll go to Janice. Oh no, staff's off.
Just two things. One, just quick, is that obviously we are also in a COVID world, and so even the messaging about the non-essential travel had been out, maintained and talked about at the beginning of the year when we see that it's pretty busy. So obviously our November, December numbers are down a little bit. It's probably because of that, and Elma's got a point as well.
Just remember that we had quite a rainy spring and early summer. So those numbers are down there as well.
I can't remember that far back.
No, I would think.
I have over 100 cedars in my yard, and I water them faithfully. And so I had to go like 6 weeks without watering them in the early part of the year. So I remember quite well.
Janice.
Wow.
That's a great way to keep track of the weather.
That is.
I was just going to say, I noticed that in December we were down by 5,000 liters. I suspect because of the no essential travel, the lack of people coming into town for the Christmas season, seeing as how that happened mid-November. So
yeah, I mean, there's reasons for it, but also I think people are getting smarter about water conservation as well, because if you look at it historically, since we've really started doing the meters and everything, our usage has dropped pretty consistently. So, okay.
The other notable would be the substantial increase in backyard gardens this year. So there was a big swing in home gardening. So it'll be interesting to see what the summer requirements are going to be.
Yeah, true. Okay, how about updated task list? Any comments on that? All good, okay. Okay, so look at us flying through our meeting. We're now going to members' reports, and I'm going to start with Dirk because Dirk has a notice of motion on there that we should talk about.
What order do you want? Do you want the motion first or the members report?
Your choice. Choose your own adventure, Dirk.
Well, let's do the motion first. I'll, do you want me to read the whole thing out?
No, I think we've got it here. Does everyone have it? Everyone's familiar with the motion?
I'd just like to move the motion, but then.
Okay, so do we have a seconder to Dirk's motion? Andy, okay, discussion, Dirk?
I just think it's really key as a small, relatively vulnerable community that we stay ahead of things. And I would like that we're trying as a community to be a bit closer to the spirit of what Bonnie Henry is asking. And I know there are a lot of, maybe not tons, but there are a lot of people from outside of our region and outside of our province coming to ski, and I don't blame them, but this is not the time to do that. And I have a number of options here, but I just like to see us, I don't know, circle the wagons a little bit more.
Okay, Andy?
Is my similar sentiments. My interest is more preventative medicine, and I think in this particular idea, there is no question that if folks are coming to recreate in our community right now, they are not aligning with the provincial health orders. So it's putting our community more at risk, and I know there's this balance that people are hoping for between economy and community safety, and I'm not sure that it can be met if we continue to allow the influx of tourists into our community. It's kind of simple.
Okay, other comments? Janice?
Yeah, I mean, I agree that clearly there are people traveling when there's an advisory out that they shouldn't. But I don't know that we should necessarily beat up our local businesses over the bad behavior of the people who are traveling. And I know there has been some discussion that maybe some of our local tourism businesses are incenting or incenting people to come. But I think that our local businesses have been very good about doing passive advertising, trying to build relationships with the local market this year. I do agree that the province and the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Tourism are probably getting lobbied very strongly by the tourism advocating organizations, and they should hear an alternate viewpoint. So if we agree that our community is concerned about people traveling into it, then I think that we absolutely should get in touch and write a letter with those concerns to those people. But I'm not convinced that there are a lot of people. I think there are tens of people, you know, multiples of tens, not multiples of hundreds, that are coming into town. And I don't know that we should beat up our local businesses over the bad behaviors of individuals.
Okay, Dirk, before I come back to you, I want to have the people who haven't spoken yet. Terry.
Hi. Yeah, first of all, thanks for this, Dirk, and I've been looking forward to this conversation. And I guess two main points. One is a concern of how this might be, well, to have your motion implemented, we would ask for and hope to get Red Mountain to beef up their, and Tourism Rawson to beef up their landing pages. And I had a good look around, and they've got locals only, and you know, could it be bigger, bolder? I think so, probably, but I think as Janet said, that they're doing a good job. My second part that I guess I want to stress more is that if you look at the stats and look at the numbers of what's been happening in the province, transmission isn't, so Kootenay Boundary currently has 7 active cases. There are no cases of anybody of any transmission at any area that I know of. Revelstoke probably could make a case for this, but Transmission isn't happening. The outbreaks isn't happening at the bottom of a ski lift or in restaurants. It's happening in houses where people are partying. It's the case remains the same. So we look at where those gatherings are come. So I think the messaging, if we really wanted to make a difference or to take steps to safeguard our community's health, we need to have a good look inside, as well as, seeing what opportunities there are to increase messaging around, stay-at-home orders. But that's not where the problem is. It's with people in their houses. So it's a local threat more than, as far as that I see, more than visitors. I'm not giving a hall pass to those people who have come. Yes, they've bent the rules to their own, but policing it and trying to track down people, and how in the world would we, put the arm on somebody? There's going to be, for every, as Janice says, for every 100 people who are here without a town plates, there's probably 85 reasons that are sort of legitimate in one form or another. So policing it or trying to enforce it is a tough one. And I'm not sure the province is going to do
Just to be clear, we're not talking about an enforcement. We're talking about more communication. We're talking about communicating to the province, to local businesses. Okay, Chris and Stuart, you guys haven't spoken, and then I'm going to go back to Dirk. Either one of you have comments?
Well, furthermore, on the enforcement issue, I mean, if we were to end up in a province with a travel ban that isn't allowing people to come in, and people do come, it's first of all, it'll cripple an already really struggling tourism sector, which is when we have issues with fish and we have issues with forestry. This sector is so important to the province. And what I'm seeing is animosity already in people. I don't see a lot of it, but I see fear. I see people have misperception on possibly why people are here. I mean, I think we've talked about how many employees are up at Red. There's 400 in between Red and Josie, so not all of them are from this province. There's a lot of people in town that aren't visitors that have been here for a long time. That being said, we still are getting some visitors. So I think that the province is doing a really wishy-washy job on controlling this, but I don't think it's our responsibility in town to get in front of our partners' marketing campaigns and step in front of some of the things that they're working really hard to keep safe.
Okay,
yeah, I mean, all this stuff's pretty nuanced. I mean, I don't want to beat up on local businesses. They're having a hard time. Most of them are trying to do the right thing. I have no idea about the epidemiology of it. What's actually the problem? It's probably his house parties, but they're only a problem in Roslyn if there's COVID to be spread, and it's got to get here for somehow. At minimum, people aren't doing the right thing. I mean, we're being asked to, curtail our own lives, to not do all those things we'd like to be doing, in the public interest. And when we see other people not doing that, it makes me angry, and it makes me think, well, why should I be curtailing my activities if other people aren't? And that's that sort of broken windows philosophy of enforcement. If you've got a whole bunch of people flaunting regulations, it makes it difficult for people to abide by all the sensible things we should be doing. And obviously it's not our job to enforce things, and everyone's points are really valid, but at minimum, I think we should be expressing our experience and our displeasure with people doing the wrong thing and coming here to the provincial government. And then ultimately it's up to people smarter and more knowledgeable than us to decide what to do. And, then we'll do the best we can.
Okay. All right, Dirk, back to you.
Just quickly, Stu made an excellent point in that it does only get transmitted if it shows up here. And the people that are at risk, if and when it comes, are the frontline workers at our one grocery store. So I do think that we are in a different position than others. We are probably a bit more vulnerable. And I acknowledge that our capacity to actually do anything about this is zero. All I'm asking is that we impress upon the tourism operators that, like, look, bring that message a little bit further forward. Destination BC has that right on their landing page. Tourism could do the same thing, just to get that, I don't know, make somebody, 2, 3, 4, 5% of the people coming to think twice. And then, as things progress in other provinces, a ban I don't think is a bad idea. I think it's unfortunate for tourism operators. I certainly wouldn't want to be a tourism operator or depending on it, but the reality is the health of our communities is more important. And if a ban comes forward, that's why it would come forward.
Okay. I think one of the things that when I'm looking at the letters we're looking at here, it says local, but one of the problems I've had is that, as far as I know, and Terry, maybe you've got better information on this, but as far as I know, local has never been defined. Like, is local your local, what do they call it, health services delivery area, or is your local health area, or your entire health region? There's 3 different levels at least. I'm going to call on Terry first and then Stu.
So Bonnie Henry suggests that that people are allowed to go ski their local hills. So in Vancouver, go ski Grouse and Seymour, and there's some debate about whether Whistler's your local mountain too. But that's sort of your local. So it's, again, very subjective. And I bet there's it's a great point, Kathy, and
Yeah.
one I was going to bring up as well. Like, where is local? Is Castlegar local?
Well,
Sure.
right.
Is
I'd
Nelson
rather
local?
have that. If we write a letter, I would like the letter to say that. Is local defined as your local service delivery area, which is our sort of Kootenay area here, or is it your local health area, which is basically trail? So I think that's because it's left to everybody's individual interpretation. And honestly, I think the province could do a better job with helping us. So, okay, Stuart.
Yeah, I'd like some guidance for myself even. I see poor Bruno in Castlegar got roasted for going to his family cabin in Mount Baldy, which,
Right.
doesn't seem that bad to me. I'm wondering how far can I go ski touring on my trips that I make out of town.
Yeah.
What's reasonable? I have no idea. I want to do the right thing, but
Yeah, for sure. Janice and then Terry.
Yeah, I was just going to say that I know that one of the things that has come up in a couple of the conversation is, I go to the grocery store and I don't know everyone. Well, we are sort of in the midst, and it's a great small town measure that we live in a place that's how we can figure out if there are new people in town. But it's a bit of a, we've got 2 things going on here. We know that in the last 6 months, if you look at the Kootenay Real Estate Board's information, that there's just been a huge migration of people into our area. So, there are new people in town who have moved here, as Chris mentioned, not necessarily even just for seasonal, for a seasonal reason, but for permanency. And we just don't know them yet. So they look like new people to us. We look like we have a bunch of visitors, but we don't know that they're visitors.
Well, and
it's a bit of a perfect storm. We've got 2 things going on.
That's true with the red employees too, who could have come from anywhere. They could have done or people who come and do their quarantine period, and then they have the wrong plates, but they've done all the rules. Dirk.
I think anecdotally, just on the other side, I talked to somebody who knows specifically of 3 people from different groups from the east that are here to ski for a week. So I mean, there's a bit of both, and because we can't define local, because we can't enforce anything or decide who's here and who shouldn't be. That's why I think it's important just to have that message further forward, like, hey, we'd like to see you later, but not right now, which is the message that's coming from the province. I would just like that beefed up a little bit to be in line with the province.
Yeah, makes sense. Okay, so Gary.
Yeah, I just back to Stuart's point about the mayor of Castlegar. I worry about us wading into this. It feels to me a bit like a minefield, just because I know the intention, Dirk, is that we want to stress and make it clear that council wants people to adhere to the guidelines. Absolutely no question, but we need to think about unintended consequences. And so again, I think Janice's first point was, I think our businesses are working hard at trying to take what's safe up there, and feels like the horse has left the barn to some degree. So I just worry about what that messaging could have some kickback, and I don't ask me what that might look like, but I keep thinking of the mayor of Castlegar, and yeah, that seemed like a pretty reasonable trip to me too, Stu, and he got baked for it. So.
Well, I think there were other issues there as well, right? There was a lot of conflict of other things that might have been a bit of the last straw. So, I think when we look at this, when we're looking at the motion, and there's 4 things in the motion, and then there's the drafts of the letter. So why don't we just go through those 4 things quickly? Because when you look at them, and I think part of it is, and I agree with you, Terry, I don't think we should be wading in and doing anything beyond what the provincial health officer has already done. But I don't think there's harm in us sending letters supporting exactly what the provincial health officer is saying, and just putting our weight, whatever our weight is, behind that. But at the same token, I don't think we need to tell people how to set up their webpage, for instance, or as Chris says, get in front of their marketing campaign. I don't think we need to do that, but I think we do need to say, our view on this is that we are very strongly support the provincial health officer's orders, and we want them to also for the safety of our community. So to me, that gets more into maybe editing some of the language in the draft letters that Dirk prepared, and we get the message out there, but without owning the response in town on businesses that we have no control of or that we don't run, if that makes any sense. Okay, so if we look at this, like the first one is that we request local tourism operators to follow and recognize current orders and adopt a locals only policy. Okay, that is totally in line with what the provincial health officer says. Stuart.
I actually support it, but if I'm going to get particular about it, the public health orders don't actually apply to businesses. They apply to the people that are moving around. So, asking tourism operators to follow the public health orders is, they've got their own public health orders, which they're complying with. The public health orders apply to the people that are moving. So if we're going to be pedantic about this, we would ask them to recognize the current public health orders and promote a locals only policy.
Well, that's what the first bullet here says.
It says to follow them.
Adopt.
Follow and adopt. I would say to recognize and promote would be, actually correct.
Okay, so change. What do you want it to say?
Just say, because they're following their own public health orders. They've got we want them to recognize the current public health orders.
Okay.
That apply to people, and promote a locals only policy.
Yeah, I think that's fair. So
right, and it does give them wiggle room, which I'd prefer that the province didn't give them, but in their wisdom, the province has given them wiggle room, and I don't think we can go beyond that, other than to say we want them to do this.
Okay, I think, does staff have a comment?
Yeah, just if we're gonna continue on this aspect, when we might as well start talking about the fact that an order and a recommendation or an advisory are a completely different level of beast when it comes into enforcement and or moving around. And so I think there was an email that went around on the weekend noting that the PHO, this is not the locals only and the non-essential travel or recommendations and advisories are not right now current orders. So if we're gonna wordsmith this, we might as well wordsmith it all to be 100% accurate, just to make sure we cover ourselves.
Okay, so on this first one, that the City of Roslyn requests local tourism operators to recognize the current
recommendations regarding non-essential travel.
But that's still correct, right? Because the current orders, whatever those orders are, yes, and promote a locals only policy. I think I don't think we're overstepping there, are we?
I think Brian's point is that it should be PHO advisory rather than PHO
You
orders.
could have a thing that said to recognize and follow current PHO orders, advisories, recommendations. That's kind of how we have been laying our things out in regards to our COVID-19 policies, just because we covered things saying that we want to follow best management practices. We obviously want to follow orders, and we also want to follow recommendations and advisories or et cetera, et cetera. So it just kind of covers everything off, right?
Okay,
Okay.
so Dirk, this is your motion. If we amend it the way that Brian is suggesting to add, advisories, orders, recommendations, blah, blah, and then adopt a locals only policy, that's all good, right?
Yeah, yeah, and I agree with Stu's point as well. Like,
Right, okay.
Yeah.
So that's the first one. So if anybody has any real objections to that, we can talk. I was hoping not to like break these out and do them one at a time. I was hoping to do them. So if we're good the way that's been changed and Cynthia's got the changes, and she does, that's good. Okay, so let's go to the second one then, which is that a locals only message is displayed on the land.
Terry had a point there, Kathy.
Oh, sorry, Terry.
I'm just trying to help me out, someone. How would item 1 be the same or different than what's already happening?
it's
Like,
it's not the same or different. I think it's just emphasizing that we're encouraging what's already happening, because what's already happening or what's already being asked to happen is not happening as much as it should.
Yeah, it's an emphasis thing more than anything else. Janice.
Okay.
Well, I'm just, as Stu said, the advisory is aimed at the people who are traveling, who are ignoring it. The businesses are meeting the requirements and regulations as have been outlined by the province. So now we're going to go to the businesses and say, right, but there are still people traveling, and the businesses aren't traveling. I just feel like, I understand the intent of the motion for sure. I'm as upset about people not paying attention to the advisory as anyone else is. But the businesses aren't traveling. It's the people. So, sending a letter to a business telling them to enforce a policy they're already enforcing or meet a regulation they're already meeting, because they'd be shut down if they weren't, because WorkSafe is all over them. I don't know what we're accomplishing. We're not reaching the people who are traveling.
Businesses are reaching the people that are traveling, I guess. I mean, because it's not just, okay, they come from Ontario and they're here, and then they're doing stuff where they're not wearing their masks, or they're doing whatever they're doing. Maybe businesses can be encouraged to help guide them. I don't know, I'm guessing. Stuart.
And it's not technically a requirement of the provinces that businesses promote a locals only policy. It's the right thing to do, and we want them to do it, but it's not actually a requirement of them.
So how do people, if we don't put messages out there, how do people get the message, right? Because communication is done in a multiple ways, right? And then we can put something on our board, follow health protocols or whatever, or stay local or whatever we want to say. But if we say, well, there's no point sending it to the businesses because it's the businesses, they're not the ones that are doing it. When we're trying to reach the people, well, how do you reach the people? I guess if not through trying to get the businesses to help us, right?
Yeah.
Terry.
Yeah, so let me come at this at a slightly different way. Item number 4, I've got no problem. I would hardly vote that the city of Rosslyn sends a letter stressing that that people are traveling interprovincially and intercommunity, and we just like them to be aware. And if there's something that they want to do at a provincial level to bear down on that issue, I've got no problem with that one. Number 1 and number 2 are problematic for me because because I believe that Red and Tourism Rosslyn are going to say, look, we're doing that. We're already doing it. It might not be as strong a message as we say it, but as Janice says, it's the people, not the businesses, that aren't complying. Red and Tourism Rosslyn are doing everything they're supposed to.
So 2 also includes what we're doing on our message board as part of 2, and we do control that. We know we can ask staff to put a stronger local message on there. Okay, Stuart.
Could we alienate our business community less by acknowledging that they're already making a good effort and that we want them to continue to do this good thing, rather than, take a sort of a heavy-handed approach as though this is what they must do. We just want to encourage them to continue doing a good thing. Yeah, we can do whatever we want. We can do whatever we want. I'm not exactly sure of the perfect language there, but acknowledging that they are doing good things, and that as a community we all want to have the same message and we want to all continue doing it. More of a community solidarity message and a continuing message, rather than you've been doing the wrong thing and you should change. Right. Dirk.
I think I'm struggling with parts of this conversation, and that if I were to invite a whole bunch of people to my house, I would be culpable. I mean, I'm not supposed to do that. I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be inviting in this opportunity for COVID to come and or spread. And it feels like, well, businesses aren't being told, they shouldn't, but they are. It's kind of this loophole that I find frustrating. And in terms of a social contract, I think that it is wrong. And my message, I think, would just be like, look, put the message more clear. I'm not asking Red to say, sorry, you're from Ontario, I'm not going to sell you a ticket, but maybe just have a bit more flashing neon to say, hey, you're from Ontario. Do you really want to do this? That's kind of the flavor I want of this. And however we, massage this to get to some kind of message, I'm okay with. But the reality is that businesses should be treated along the lines of what our residents are treated. I'm expected not to have parties in my house for those reasons. And yes, they don't transmit. I get Terry's point that they don't transmit on the ski hill, but it's not the ski hill. It's going to the grocers or the beer or wine store as a group later that puts those people at risk, and ultimately our community. So this whole parsing it out as business versus resident or traveler, the reality is we're all in this, and each piece of this cog is important in maintaining our safety. There's advisories for reasons.
Right. I'm going to call on Andy.
I think one of the challenges too is that we keep talking about Red and Tourism Rosslyn doing the right thing, but we have all the other secondary businesses that are tied in with those organizations. So all the accommodators in town, and we're talking a lot of people when we start talking about B&Bs as well. So those are businesses that are attracting people as well. We're certainly not saying no. Like as Dirk had said, you can sympathize with the challenge going on right now, but I think reaching out we're not just reaching out to Red, we're not just reaching out to Tourism Rosslyn, we're reaching out to all the businesses that are supporting a tourism base in our community. So, I think it is important for all businesses to be responsible and to be reminded that they're part of our community and instrumental in trying to keep it safe as well.
Well, one of the letters was to the local tourism sector. It wasn't just Red or Tourism Rosslyn. Chris, you had your hand up.
Well, I just want to, emphasize that everybody is working as hard as they can to make sure that they're safe and their employees are safe, and they're adhering to everything that they have to. At least, if somebody isn't, then it's very clear that they're not. And it is the individual behavior and not the industry, and I echo that. It's been said a couple of times. It's something I think that we can't really control, and to be able to try to control it, I think it would be too challenging, too daunting of a task for us. And not necessarily the right thing to do, advocating for people that don't necessarily want to be advocated for. And they're absolutely doing everything that they're told that they have to be doing when it comes to their own environments. And I'm talking about business as well as accommodators. It would be a shame to take that momentum away from them. What they're
So maybe
doing.
the stronger position is that we lobby the provincial government to define what's local, so everyone knows. And then
I'd love to see that.
You know,
Yeah,
and that may be, because I mean, you're right. It's like you can't tell Red what to put on their website. We can encourage them, you know, but we don't have any enforcement of that anyway. And again, as we have said, Red's not the problem, right? Red's the attraction, but you know. Okay, so Janice.
I was just thinking as I was listening, it's really challenging because similar to the individuals who are ignoring the advisory, who may not listen to us, if we could put out a letter addressed to everyone in Canada. Red would love to see you later. So the same as those individuals who don't want to pay attention to that, if we have members of the tourism sector in town who are skirting around it, certainly not necessarily our larger attractions, because they seem to be, you know, just doing everything they possibly can to stay safe and open. You know, us putting out a letter, they're not going to pay attention to us either. So even just the messaging, I think, needs to be stronger and come from I'm with Terry. I'm completely behind number 4 on the motion, the 4th item in the motion. I'm not sure how, and I like Stu's idea of, you know, discussing with our businesses, supporting them, applauding the work that they've done this far to be open, to be safe, to meet the regulations they need to meet. But some people are just going to be bad actors, and they're always going to be bad actors.
Stuart.
Yeah, I mean, however we finesse it, I still think it's important that as a representative government for our community, that we articulate, you know, a position on the matter. I mean, you know, we want to be sensitive. We don't want to be counterproductive, but you know, as a community, I think it's important that we do have a position on this matter.
So would it be better, rather than send a letter to the other levels of government, right? But rather than a letter to our tourism operators, put out a press release in our local media that talks about this. And that way, maybe you get other people reading it, but you also get our business community reading it without necessarily targeting them if we don't think they're the ones that are being, you know, bad. Does that make any sense?
Well, I think we do want, again, finessing this in a way that is, you know, meets all these different challenges, but you know, we do want to encourage our businesses to, you know, work with us on this. You know, again, not in a way that we're, you know, we don't have any enforcement. You know, we don't want to be antagonistic, but we do want to encourage them to, you know, to work, for the whole community to work together on this. That's
Right.
to me, that's what we want to achieve.
Okay, Dirk.
And I think just at that point, and to Chris's, is that we can't, and we have no interest or intention of controlling any businesses, but we can control the message. And I think the thing is, I'd like just a bit more of a bristly message. You know, look, we're trying to be more careful. And if you know, it's not going to stop everybody. My dad's favorite saying was, "Locks only keep criminals out," or something along those lines. So it doesn't matter what we do; people are still going to come.
The non-criminals out.
Yeah. Oh wait. Yeah. Sorry. The other way around. There's been too much conversation so far. I've lost track. But even my dad's sayings. But I just think that, you know, if it stops 5% of the people from coming, maybe they're the ones that have COVID. I don't know. I mean, it's a numbers game. We're at risk. Our medical system is at risk. We could get overwhelmed quite easily. So just having that message more front and center It's hard times for us for sure, but I think it's important. And what I hear from the community is that's the message that the community would like. There is discontent and concern in the community, and that is our voice, or we're their voice in this case.
Okay. Okay, so where are we here? We have this motion and it does have 4 points.
They start at the bottom and work our way up.
Maybe we should just.
We'll start on what we can agree on.
Yeah, we'll start on what we can agree on, which is number 4. Okay, well, let's take it apart. Let's just vote down the first motion, which had everything on it. Okay, all in favor of the motion that has all 4 things unchanged? Nobody. Okay, opposed? Everybody. Okay, so let's start again. Let's get a motion on number 4. Excuse me. Janice makes it and Andy seconds it. Okay, so that is that the city of Roslyn send a letter to our local MLA outlining our concerns, copied to Dr. Henry and Minister Dix on, all the relevant ministers regarding lax enforcement on interprovincial and intercommunity travel. And I would add to that we ask for a definition of what is local, get an actual definition. Can we do that? Okay. Any
And
further
I got a friendly amendment to this. Instead of regarding lax enforcement, because there hasn't been any enforcement.
Yeah.
That we emphasize instead of regarding lax enforcement, we change that to re-emphasize interprovincial and intercommunity travel, the public health orders regarding interprovincial and intercommunity travel, and emphasize and clarify. How's that?
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And then when we get into the letters, we can put the language in there. Okay. So anything else on that one? I'm going to call a question. All in favor of that? Okay. Okay. So now we have to go back up to 1 and 2 because 3 is 1 and 2. So let's go back to number 1. And that's that the city of Roslyn requests local tourism operators. So this is us sending a letter to local tourism operators to follow and recognize the current public health advisories, recommendations, orders, and all the rest of the words that Brian mentioned, and promote a locals only policy. Dirk.
Maybe I can help soothe Stu's concerns and change this. Instead of that order, what if we do the press release as you suggested to the community, just reminding the community, and that's the people that are inviting people from the east or Alberta or wherever, as well as the businesses. Like, we're all in this together. We'll not identify tourism operators, but let's just a press release saying, hey, reminder, people aren't supposed to travel. Please don't encourage it.
Okay.
Or
okay.
something.
So that's changed. Cynthia, do you have that?
Could you repeat that, please?
You want me to try to type it out later?
Yeah. Basically, we're changing it to be a press release. And
to the community.
This is regarding point number 1, right?
Yeah.
This could be points 1, 2, and 3 all in one. I mean, I think it covers it if we just a press release to the community saying, hey, let's I'm at a loss for words. Still trying to.
Yeah, so I guess what we have is that we would create a press release to promote current PHO's orders, policies, regulations, guidelines, yada, 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 for locals only policies. And then that we talk about messaging displayed on messaging when we're required, which would include the board in the front of town there.
Okay.
Some of this stuff's already on our webpage and on our Facebook page and stuff like that is pinned, but we can add some more as well.
Okay, I think that sounds good. So that's Dirk's motion. Do we have a seconder? Janice seconds. Okay, so any further discussion on this? I think we've kind of been around the block on it. People feel comfortable? All good? I'm going to call the question. All in favor? Okay, good. All right, so now the other thing to look at is the letter that we're going to send to the ministers. And I wonder, since we've agreed to send a letter, maybe we'll do a little wordsmithing and just send it out an email to do it that way rather than try and do that now. Okay. Okay, good. So we're not going to do the letter. Okay, great. Good discussion, guys. Okay, so now, Dirk, the rest of your members report.
Yep, I just got to find it. Really, it's not big. Just went to the Sustainability Commission meeting, and it was a good meeting. There was a discussion around creating a climate hub. The RDCK liked it. The Food Security Task Force is looking for people, so anyone interested in food security would be, now's the time, approach them. And then looking at launching a sustainable block competition along the lines of, you know, the prettiest garden competitions in a community. We'd like to see some sort of work towards a sustainable block. So composting and green cars and the like.
Okay.
And that's it for me.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, Andy, you're up because you have your December monthly report you've given us. Is there anything else?
No, not really. Other than, you know, continue to attend meetings, and it's budget time, so it's very busy right now at Regional District. So I'll have an update and report coming up soon.
Okay, sounds good. Janice, how about you? Muted. You're muted.
I pressed the button. What was this, Stuart? What was this? Would you do that to me if I was within striking range? Just a couple of things. I attended the Midtown Transition meeting. We're still awaiting the results of the 95% review from BC Housing of our drawings and the result of a few grant applications. Worked with Seaball and Rawson Recreation and Events to plan a story walk, which is a really cool. It's a bunch of what are they called? Do you know, where you stands where you have a little story and you can walk around on an outdoor path and, you know, tell the story. It's interactive. Unfortunately, with the extension of the travel advisory, that's not going to work out. So it's been postponed, although it sounded like it was a really cool thing, and we were going to try and link it in with carnival activities. So, but it'll have to be post carnival now. And I also met with Don Thompson. We've just discussed that, the GM of Red Mountain, just to discuss the impacts of the provincial travel health advisory and the COVID-19 prevention procedures on Red Mountain's resorts and the ski industry and their seasonal operations. As Andy and I were discussing before the meeting a little bit, you know, usage of our local amenities is up incredibly. Blackjack is up 37% over their best year already for seasons passes. In the last 5 or 6 years, Red has doubled the number of seasons passes that they've sold from 2,700 to 5,400. And, you know, anecdotally, lots of kids and families on the hill every weekend. So, so it's nice that the local market has something to our local people, however we want to define that, have some outdoor activities or embracing them and spending time around our amenities. So that's what I've got.
That's great. Thanks. Terry, how about you?
Hi, yeah, I met with the library board on the 13th. They're busy onboarding some new employees, monitoring visitors, and they're going to shift some hours around a little bit. So there'll be some news coming out there. I did lots of sales of the OCP process and talked to them about that, as well as tried to put out through the grapevine through that board around looking for somebody for the Economic Development Task Force. They had an interesting discussion on vaccine for library employees, which I thought was an interesting one. So I'm not sure where the city, where this crosses over with city staff, but when vaccines become available to the masses, what are the policies that an employer like the library would be bound by, or what, so that was, it's a remaining question. They're going to look into it and wait for direction, but that came up. They're putting together, strengthening their social media policy about what to do online, and that was it. Brian, there was some back and forth about some questions about their funding agreement, which I brought back to Brian, and I think we've got those things pretty much done, unless Brian, you see things differently there.
Okay, thanks. Stuart.
No, nothing.
Okay, Chris.
Also had the Midtown meeting on January 6th. I'm really looking forward to some new progress in that. I think it's forthcoming. January 11th, Heritage Commission meeting. We submitted our 2020 year-end financial statements, all balanced. Thank you, Joanne. 15 new hits on the new website, which is pretty good. It's Heritage, right? So 15 new hits on an updated website is pretty good. Social media platform is chugging along as well, in conjunction with the website. It is Heritage Week again, February 15th, so please be aware. On behalf of the Heritage Commission, everybody said thank you very much for their grant. And it'll all go to good stuff. Dirk, for the Sustainability Commission, we moved the juice press. So Michael has it. I don't know if he's dropped it off yet, but it was beside the library. We installed, you'll see around town, all of the updated heritage signs on the building. So have a look at those. And I got a bunch of meetings in the next week. That's it for me.
Okay, great. So as most of us know, the OCP engagement is underway. A postcard went out. Hopefully everybody got it in their box, and there's a survey there. There's a website. If you haven't checked it out, you should. And thanks to everybody for doing the video. I haven't seen it yet. I had to do mine twice, and I screwed up worse the second time than the first time. So we'll see how that comes out. I was on a call with 150 people for Caribou recovery update, which was really interesting. And they talked about predator management, monitoring inventory, science update, habitat restoration. Incredible uphill battle. I mean, there's so many people on the call were really all about snow sports and wanting to do the economic impact of closing these areas off, which is like, if you're just looking at the economics of it, well, all species except for ours will be, discontinued in short order. So that was but it was an interesting conversation because, of course, it's really good to see what the province's efforts, because they are really trying to save the species. And it's not just that species, it's others as well. So anyway, I thought it was an interesting kind of an idle way to spend an hour, because we don't really have caribou right here, at least not anymore. I had a call with Minister Osborne. She was just checking in. She was, it was interesting. She was expressing her concern about stress on local governments, local elected councils, and staff during the pandemic. She is our new Minister of Municipalities, and she is concerned how we are all doing, because she used to have this role, and she knows that it's hard at the local government level. I do have another upcoming call with a group call with her. And she's going to, she talks to all the municipalities and divides up, I think it's 5 or 6 calls. So you get 35 or 40 mayors and CAOs on the call. That's coming up. And there's an upcoming group call to talk about the Green Link with other interested stakeholders, not just local government, but others. So that'll be that's going to be interesting to see, because I think we do have some momentum on that. Then there's another upcoming resort municipality mayor's call. We still have not gotten a response from the new Minister of Tourism, and we want to talk to her. And one of the things in that call also is the definition of local, when we talk with where people are supposed to be coming. Also have an upcoming call, Highway 3 call with Kootenay Rockies Tourism, which is kind of interesting because the Highway 3 mayors and chairs isn't specifically focused on tourism. It's more focused on infrastructure and improvements to bridges and roads and all the rest of it, but tourism does fit into that. So I'm not quite sure where that's going. but it'll be interesting to say. And the other thing I want to bring up is we got a request in our January 15th information package. This is from the Columbia Basin Institute, and they want a letter of support from us to support their grant to Columbia Basin Trust. Oh, I'm sorry, to Work BC for their resourcing workers and promoting profiles of the different museums that are in their group. So this is a regional thing, and I did check with our museum, and yes, they do want us to send the letter. So I'd like a motion from someone to send a letter of support for this. Can I have a motion? Andy makes it, Chris seconds it, and this is kind of a no-brainer. They actually sent the sample letter in there, which looked fine, other than we'll change it to say Roslyn Museum and Discovery Center. Okay, all in favor? Okay, and that is it. I don't have anything else. So take a motion to adjourn. We're all out. Okay, thanks everybody. Thanks staff.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Nighty night.
Nighty night. Bye, Sarah.
Thanks, everybody. Good night.
Good night.
Take care, all.